Hello everyone, it's Lennon. Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about Surrealist Spirituality. Okay? I was recently watching a review, I believe, of a Breton book, and it was probably Nadia, but I can't remember now, by a beloved booktuber, okay? And they made a comment about the fact that, they really enjoy Andre Breton's, works, especially his magnum opus of the Surrealist Manifesto, okay? But that they themselves think that they have outgrown surrealism. I'll never outgrow it. I'll never outgrow it. Surrealism is me. Surrealism is my being. I am surreal. And it's not a phase for me. And it wasn't. Every time I've ever read anything by the surrealist, the literary surrealist, and the artistic surrealists, seen or read anything by them, I have felt such a kinship with them that it's not a phase. And I will not outgrow it. So much of my personality comes from my spirituality, and therefore I wanted to mix the two as an ode to surrealism and an ode to Breton and Apollinaire and any of the symbolist workers that have done some incredible works, and just gush about it for a minute and maybe maybe like melt the two together, So now, surrealism is just a term that in a movement, technically, that has come about. I believe the poet Guillaume Apollinaire had coined the term. He was at some play or something, and he coined the term to mean something like that's outside of our reality, right? It's not something that's necessarily internal, and it's beyond. It's beyond reality. The feeling that you get when you look at something and you immerse yourself into something and you feel an otherness, you feel the beyond working, and how it's not part. It's like something outside of consciousness, right? It's subconscious, and a lot of the works actually are influenced by Freud, and which is cool. Okay. You've got dreams, and you've got, work of the subconscious itself. You've got the shadow. You've got the ego versus the self. You've got so much that you can stem from this. But basically, surrealism means the beyond. And I think Apollinaire, he tried to coin the term to also not only beyond, but something that's unrelated to our conscious reality. So many of the terms that we could use in the spirituality niches now are things like astral and hedge writing and law of attraction and lucid dreaming. All of these terms, I believe, are offshoots of surrealist thoughts and projections. So yeah, and then even Rimbaud, I think he was quoted that surrealism is a hidden and mysterious reality, and it's about wanting to tap into that. Surrealism is about wanting to tap into the subconscious, and even into the collective unconscious. If we wanted to go, as another offshoot of Freud, go off of Freud a little bit and go into Jung and go the collective unconscious and the shadow and things like that, things that Jung had birthed into existence. The theories and writings, I would say, of both Freud and Jung, having come out in the reality we are in, having come out of having Freud and Jung both influence psychoanalysis, I believe we could probably use both of them and their theories and both of their writings to come up with a surrealism that stays relevant. And much like that booktuber, I believe so many people do not believe in surrealism anymore. They believe that it was a phase. They believe that if you were to ever fall in love with surrealism, that you would fall out of love with it for a more rational consensus reality. And most people probably do. Most people probably do. Most people probably fall out of love with it for the impartiality of it. They would probably fall out of love with it. Because it would be like having that irrational mindset all the time, and that's not practical, right? What strikes me the most about surrealism is creative freedom. And it's about expressionism. And if we were, say, to fall out of love, or to even say that surrealism is a phase, then are we locking ourselves into the cage of rationalism? Are we locking ourselves into rationality in such a way that we could no longer be creatively free? Would we not be able to dive into the reservoir of the human experience to unlock the fantastical, to unlock the self-mythologizing? I do believe that the avant-garde, I believe that it's not a phase. My belief is that it's not necessarily a phase, but the movements and what the prolifics have done with the movements have all but ended. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't want to think those ways anymore, that we don't want to see creative freedom expressed in those ways anymore. We still want that. We still want to see that. We want the word plays, we want the juxtapositions, and we want to be able to utilize our whole self, our whole being. We want to be able to utilize that and tap into that. How else could we possibly express ourselves if we're not utilizing the whole self? If we're only going to use the rational, how does expression, and would expression, have a role? Question mark. As someone that would say that surrealism plays a huge role in my being in a total sense, there is an aspect of spirituality, again, that I identify with and must to be able to express myself, that I wanted to melt the two. Okay? So for me, magic and wonder play a huge role in my spirituality, and expressionism as well. And so I was thinking about the themes that we could siphon and add them to spirituality to make this kind of surrealist spirituality, and make this kind of re-movement. Like let's get literally the wheels moving again. And so that this way the new writers and the new poets and the new artists and the new musicians and the ones that are putting forth themselves and expressing themselves can feel a lot more safe doing so. Why are we washing ourselves down? That's the first thing. Why are we washing ourselves down? We shouldn't be. Now, like I said, magic and wonder play such a role that I think that that's one of the themes that we can tap into, and we should, is when was the last time you were in awe of something? Literally in awe of it. Or you were like, man, this is straight magic. This is magic. When was the last time you thought that? Has it been a long time? Was it yesterday? Spirits are probably another theme, not necessarily a direct surrealist theme, but spirits in terms of spirituality probably could have an inkling here as well. It was about listening and responding, so why couldn't we then transfer that to the spirit realm? Whichever spirits we would talk to, communicate with, offer things to, speak to, on any kind of level that we would. So listening and responding to the world and to the other worlds and to the other dimensions, like whatever, right? Listen and respond, and not in a backhanded way, in a real, from a real place. Again, I would probably juxtapose both of these oppositions, but there's something to be said about self-sovereignty, but then also self-regenocide. And it could be this ego death thing, right? Where we can put ourselves on pedestals, come up with our own way that we know that we're sovereign beings, spiritual sovereign beings. But then also, would our ego, because it's like a constant running cog, okay? We're constantly in flux with it. If we're in flux with it, then there may come times where our ego wants to take over, and we have to do a self-regenocide. We have to kill off that sovereign ego monster, okay? So it could be, again, about this fight between self-sovereignty and self-regenocide. That is such a surreal thing to do. It's like putting your crown on and then knowing when to knock that thing off. We can capture the fluidity of magic, the fluidity of time, the fluidity of place and space, and reality and rationality. We can look inside of rationality and inside of consensus reality and look at the fluidity there. Look at how it's flowing. Look at how it's ebbing and flowing. Look at how it's fighting against you. The current is fighting against you, or when it's taking you with it. You know, when are the times in your life that any of that's been happening? We can capture that. It's like taking a black and white still photograph of that, you know, of fluidity. How could you ever possibly do that? Off the top of my head, just in this surrealist way, I would take a black and white photograph of like the ocean, right? And paste it to this piece of white canvas or paper, right? And then draw squiggle lines and shores and wiggly waves and waves crashing this way and crashing this way, and suns and moons, and what is it day, is it night, you know? Like, we can play around with themes and colors and symbols and things. That's in my artistic brain. That's where I would go with it. But like, how would you do it? How would you take a black and white photo of the sea and make it move? Capture the fluidity. Okay. Segueing right into the next theme probably is unlock your imagination, people. Come on. Unlock that thing. And whether you choose to dive or ascend, just set it free. Just set it free for a little while. Set the damn thing free and see what it does, because it's going to do some stuff, okay? And you can choose to like kind of like have it on a leash, let it go, and then, you know, okay, pull it back in, you know, like a fish, well, maybe more so like a fishing rod. Or are you going to follow it? Are you just going to follow it wherever the hell it goes? You know, like how would you have it if it was like if your imagination was sentient? You know, how would you treat it? You know, the main thing is that it just needs to be released and go so far outside of reality. How are you listening and responding to it? To refer back to a previous theme. The use of metaphor is like, it's like my favorite, okay? Using metaphor. Something as something else. This is this. This is that. This is that. Which is which and which is what is like Winnie the Pooh all over again, okay? Take that bear, take that honey pot in your hands, okay? Drench yourself in its sticky, ooey goodness of the imagination and reality and rationality, and pour it like this. Just let the honey just drizzle all over you, and use metaphor. But then don't be afraid to use your own brand of expressionism as a mirror. One thing I did when I was much younger, I haven't done it in a long time, but one thing that I did to get me into this kind of surrealist, confused, metempsychosis, okay, is, or like I would say a living metempsychosis, is self-portraits. You can go as crazy as you want. Cut out eyes from magazines. You know, draw your curly hair, my curly hair, you know, put a crooked nose on there because it links you to a memory of something. Your nose probably may not even be crooked right now. Like, what are you adding? What features are you adding? What features are you taking away? Keep doing them, you know, make it a birthday ritual. Just keep drawing a self-portrait every year, and then go back and reference it. It's like have a sketchbook full of just self-portraits that you do every year on your birthday. And that kind of cathartic ritual will have you really thinking about yourself in surrealist ways, because you have to be able to express yourself, but also know yourself, also be able to see the mirror, you know? Probably the last rule that I'll probably talk about is absurdism, okay? And this just means we relinquishing the control. I've never really had a problem with this. I've always thought that rules... Now, I won't say that rules are meant to be broken, okay? I'm a rule abider, okay? For the most part, I'm a good girl. And I always really have been. Like, I've just not really found the sense in breaking the rules just for the act of breaking the rules. But in terms of expressionism and surrealism and imagination and play and wonder and magic, I believe that the rules, like, either come up with your own rules or toss them all out the window for a little while. But this could be a nod back to how you would release yourself in the, you know, as the imagination, as this, you know, as these little sentient selves you would have outside of yourself. How would you interact with them? How are you listening and responding? How are they acting as mirrors? How are they acting as metaphors? But also, how are these rules stifling you? And it's about extinguishing the fire of rationality. Who you think you are, who others think you are. It's just so much about self. So much about being present and looking to the past and thinking of the future, but in this kind of limnoscopic way, okay, to me. You know, one of the things that I love in my spirituality is like automatic writing and automatic drawing. Had no idea that this was a surrealist. These were things that were set up by Breton, who wrote the Surrealist Manifesto. So, like, for further reading, please read Surrealist Manifesto. You could read other books. I think I want to read, if you want some more streams of consciousness, then Agua, Viva by Clarice Lispector is really good. It's really short too. And then another Breton work is, no, I don't know. I'll put the title and the cover here. Forgot the damn title. But anyway, it's not a big deal. Get into streams of consciousness if you want to, like, read up on this movement. Read some of the authors and the poets like Baudelaire and Rimbaud, the French Symbolist Poets. There's more of them that aren't surreal, but they're still good. The Symbolist writers, and look up. I mean, some of the Surrealist artists. You know, Magritte and Dali, and some of the. I mean, there's so many. Like, I love Leonora Carrington and Remedios Vars, and I mean, even Frida Kahlo technically can be considered a surrealist. So, and look at how they use symbol. Look at how they use metaphor. Look at how especially Frida, uses her artistic expression as a mirror for herself. And it's just, how can we have a surrealist spirituality full of imagination and wonder and dreams and other worlds, other times, other places? Once upon a blank. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know your thoughts below. How would you get on with surrealist spirituality? Much love.